everybody and welcome back to my channel. I hope everybody's doing good. In today's video I'm going to give you a little bit of a break from all of the Disney World Florida vlogs that I've been uploading. Depending on when I upload this video there might be 1 or 2 more vlogs left for you guys to see, but I thought I would just do a little bit of a different style video just to kind of break up all the vlogs because I know it's a lot. However, it is still holiday Disney Florida themed, but I thought I would just go through kind of like my hints and tips and kind of things I've taken away from our experience going away to Disney World Florida with a baby. I feel like some of these tips can apply to kind of like a few different types of holidays, so flights, long haul flights, hot countries, hot climates, and kind of busy on the go holidays. We did do kind of like a bit of a mixture. We were obviously at the parks a lot, we did a bit of shopping, we chilled at the villa, so there's probably something for you guys to take away if you've got kind of like a baby or a toddler. You might be able to take away a few of these tips, but they're kind of more geared and specific to going to Disney World and Universal and all that kind of thing, because that was obviously what our holiday was focused on. When we went, our little girl Novaly, she was 10 months, nearly at like heading on to 11 months old, so this is obviously kind of geared to that kind of age. But the good thing with this age, she's still drinking, you know, bottles, she's still having her milk, but she's also on 3 meals a day with snacks and things like that. It's kind of applied to a few different age ranges, I would say. Obviously she needs a lot of kind of like interaction and entertainment and things, so yeah, I think you can kind of take away a few different things from this video depending on your type of holiday and if you've got children and what age and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to try not to ramble. I've also got a new phone with a slightly better camera, so I feel like it's kind of more in like HD. It's like picking up a lot more stuff, which is great for like filming everything else, but when it's like my face, I'm a little bit more like, oh, this is quite high definition, but we're going with it. So the first things I'm going to talk about are kind of more geared towards flying, and like you know, this was obviously a long haul flight. It was 9.5 hours on the way there and I think about 8.5 on the way back. We had a little bit of a delay on the way back, so that's obviously adding time on. We also had to travel to Gatwick as well, which should be about a 3.5 hour journey. It definitely took longer on the way there. Like if you've watched my holiday Florida vlogs, you'll kind of see all of this. If you want to check those out, I've kind of go through, you know, it's kind of first hand there, but this is kind of the roundup of everything. So yeah, it was a lot of traveling. You know, Novaly did so well. She's traveled there on the plane when we got there, so I feel like we've now, you know, had a fair share of traveling with a baby. So number one thing that I would say that helped us loads, and I know it's not possible for everybody, but we were really lucky that we had so much help and support from our family. Like it wasn't just me and Tom going, we had Tom's parents, Tom's sister and partner, his cousin, you know, we were all traveling together, and then we met some friends out there, so it was kind of it was all hands on deck basically, and you know, that is what really helped us throughout the whole holiday. Definitely, but also kind of with the flight and the traveling, it just meant that it wasn't all on Tom and I. We could share the load. She wasn't getting as bored because she could, like on the plane, she could be like passed around and interact with different people. So yeah, if you can have friends or family to come and help support you, especially on like an intense, busy, long haul flight, crazy holiday like we had, then you know, that is like top priority of my list. There is no way that we would have been able to do it without their help. I know they do, a lot of them do watch my videos, so thank you guys for all of your help. We honestly wouldn't have been able to do it without you. If you can get help and support, then it's a massive weight lifted, and you can obviously just share it all out. The next thing I would say, kind of like if you've got a baby or, you know, a young child, security were amazing for us, for like baby milk and formula and foods. They were really helpful. All I would say is just separate it all, so they're all in like one bag, so when you get there it's really easy just to take it out and you know exactly what has got to go through, because they have to like test the milk and the water. They were fine with like boiled water in a flask. Obviously you're best to check your airline, like what airport you're flying from, all that kind of stuff. I think it all varies. On the way back, it was slightly different because it was just, obviously in America, it was just different. But both ways were really, really good and had no problems really with milk and food for babies. It was great. Another hint kind of for that as well is, if you can, maybe find out if there is like a family or like child security lane, which is what we went in on the way there. It was amazing. It was kind of more geared up. They were ready for pushchairs and the formula and the water testing and all that. They were geared up for it. They knew what they were doing. The line was slightly shorter as well. It was really, really quick for us to get through that security. But again, the major help in that sense was just that we had so many of us. So loads of people, like Tom's sister and mum were all kind of like helping us get all the the formula out in one pot, and I was carrying over, and then the pushchair has to go through separately, and that all needs to be emptied. So it is like an intense task to make sure everything's emptied and clear and they've got everything through. So again, having like multiple pairs of hands really, really helped, because if it was just Tom and I, we would have struggled. It would have been a lot more stressful. So that was really handy. But just check if you've got like a family security line, because it was definitely better. Within the airport as well, because we took her car seat and her pushchair, so both of them were really, really easy to check in. It was just the car seat we did as we arrived, and you put it into oversized luggage, and the pushchair we kept with us the whole way up until we were boarding the plane, and then they took it, so we put it in a little kind of like travel bag thing. But I would say what really helped me at this stage was I then had the baby carrier, so I could pop her in the carrier whilst we were getting on the plane, because you're still carrying quite a few suitcases, and it's just easier to have her attached to me that way than me having to hold her. Also, then when we arrived in Orlando, there was a little bit of a wait and a bit of a walk between getting off the plane and collecting our luggage, and that was where you got your pushchair, was at baggage claim. So that would have been a really long time for me to carry, or anyone just to carry her. So the baby carrier was so helpful, and I took it on the plane. So that is a really helpful tip, I would say. Have a baby carrier with you, because it just gives you those hands free and it's just easier. And because when we arrived in Orlando, actually you had to go through all these like security checks, because like they're so hot on kind of people who they're letting into their country and stuff. So that was like a good hour, and I'm so glad that I had that carrier, because I'd seen other families that didn't, and they were kind of like struggling to hold their babies. And also it was really late at night, so she didn't, but if she really needed to, she could have slept on me as well. So that's really helpful. I think it kind of goes without saying, I guess, and again, depending on the age of your baby, but just you need to just be really over prepared with like toys and entertainment and things. Obviously, if they're a little bit older, you can have like colouring toys, more interactive type things. We took her Amazon Fire, like little pad thing, and that was amazing, because it just meant we could download all of her favourite shows, and we had that for the car journey, we had that in the airport, we had it on the plane. I know, like, a lot of long haul flights you have in-flight entertainment, but sometimes like they're not that interested. They like their favourite shows, like she loves In the Night Garden and Bluey, and I just know that if I put that on, that will distract her. So yeah, take something like that. If you are a parent that allows screen time, which we limit it, but we definitely allow screen time, because it is a great help. And it did really help on the flight, and just in general, like on holiday, having that with us. Another tip as well, I would say, like taking off and landing, if you can give your baby like a bottle, or if they take a dummy, or give them like their water. We planned it and kind of held her bottle off until takeoff, so she could do that, because it just helps with their ears popping. So that's another really helpful tip. And then the last thing I'd probably say about being like the flight that we were on, we actually Tom's mum was amazing, and like was doing like battling for ages to try and book us the seats at the front of the rows, where you could then have like the bassinet or like skycot type thing, which was amazing, because it just meant we had extra leg room, which is great, because I could just plonk her on the floor and she could have like a little bit of a crawl around that area. Once you'd taken off between takeoff and landing, you can then get all of your stuff out of the overhead luggage, because with a baby you have loads of stuff, so it just meant there was much more room for us to put all of our bags out, so I could then get out what I needed. So that was really, really helpful. And then obviously we had the bassinet skycot type thing as well. I'll try and insert, like, I don't know, I think I did get a photo. I'll try and insert a photo of what I mean, because it's kind of hard to explain. But we could put her in that as well, so it just meant there was somewhere else for her to go. She didn't spend loads of time in it, to be honest, because there was so many of us on the flight. Everyone, we were just like passing her around. She was having a great time. She fell asleep on us a few times as well. The only thing I would say about that, which I found was really, really annoying, was on the way home. It was a night flight. I'd got her, you know, she'd had her tea, I'd given her a bottle, she was ready in her pajamas, ready for bed, really sleepy, popped her in that, was rocking her to sleep. She fell asleep. I was like, great. 20 minutes into her nap, we had some turbulence, and the flight hostess, is that what they're called? Flight attendant came round and was like, oh, you're gonna have to take her out of here because of the turbulence. And I was like, I know it's a safety thing, and obviously we did that because it's obviously the safest thing to do, but it was just really annoying because she'd just fallen asleep, and then I had to get her out, which woke her up. Luckily she did fall back to sleep on my lap, and then I just thought, I'm just going to leave her here, because if I keep putting her in and out of this thing, because you don't know how much turbulence you're going to get, it would be sod's law that I put her back in it, and then there's more, and then she's just going in and out. So I just left her on my lap. So that's the only thing I would say about them. That's a little bit annoying. But if you just want to have like hands-free time, you know, if you're flying by yourself, or there's just only you and your partner, or you've got multiple children and they haven't got their own seat, the sky cot is really, really handy. So and it's just great for the extra leg room as well. You probably will be placed next to other families with children, because obviously everybody that has children wants those seats. But on the way home, we were actually really, really lucky. There was spare seats next to us, so Tom's parents sat there as well, but it just meant there's extra leg room and things like that. So, right, that's that for the flight. Sorry, I'm rambling so much. I'm trying to get through this. Okay, so this is now more geared to kind of like the Disney, the parks, all that kind of stuff. But the first thing I would say that we probably struggled with the most was the heat. It was so hot. I've never been anywhere in my life that is as hot as it was on that holiday. And because obviously it wasn't a chilled, relaxing, sitting by the pool kind of holiday, it was a let's get up and go, we're walking around parks all day in the sweltering heat, crammed in with loads of people. It was really hot. So my advice, if you've got young children, or you're somebody you're with is just really not great with the heat, I would go a different time of year to what we did potentially. I would avoid June, July and August, because it's like really, really hot. We were dealing with like between 37 and 38 degree heat. But on our phones, it was like, feels like between like 43 and 45 degrees. So not only did we struggle, Nova did struggle. She did really, really well, but it was a little bit of a struggle, I'm not gonna lie. We still had a great time, and we just did a few different things to help with the heat. But obviously, depending on what time of year you go, you have to be a little bit careful, I guess, with like storms and bad weather and all that kind of stuff. But just maybe look into how hot it is actually gonna be and what time of year might work better for you. I personally wouldn't go back at that time of year, because it was like unbearable at points. Saying that though, if you do go at that time of year, or it is really, really hot wherever you're going, you just need to, you know, carry out a few different precautions to help with the heat, especially with a baby or a young child, because they can't really regulate the temperature properly. So we were just constantly on Nova, like monitoring her and all that sort of stuff. So to keep cool, and ideas that we kind of did and found out whilst we were there, is we bought a pram fan, which does help, but obviously it's kind of just blowing, it's not like really, really cold air you're blowing at them, but it does definitely help. We also bought a spray fan, so either like you can buy them at the parks, or you could probably buy them on Amazon, or even just like a spray bottle, just so you could put like cold water in it and just mist. It really, really helps cooling you down just by giving like a spray of water, so that's really, really helpful. Also, we got some like wet cooling towels. We didn't get these until towards the end of the holiday, but before that I was just like wetting a muzzy, so I could then put that over her feet or like the back of her neck, just to help keep her cool. Again, they do kind of like warm up quite quickly because it is so hot, they do warm up. But if you just find like there's always like water fountains everywhere and like toilets, and you know, even if you just went to like a kiosk or a restaurant and just said, can I have some ice cold water, you can just like cool it down with that or whatever. They were really, really helpful for everything like that. So that's a really good tip to help keep, you know, not even just your babies but yourself cool. And obviously the typical like hats, sun cream, all that stuff, you know, that's just a given. We also, at any opportunity, would just pop into an aircon shop, because they are dotted about. A lot of the time we wouldn't even want to go in to browse anything, we would just go in to cool off if we were like near it or we were waiting for something. We just popped in there to kind of like just try and get our body temperatures down a little bit. And then you can just kind of plan maybe a little bit what time of day you go, because obviously between like midday and 3 p.m. is like the hottest time. So if you try and go a little bit earlier into the parks, at that time you could then kind of like go and get lunch in like an air-conned area, or go into the park a little bit later. We did that sometimes. We would, you know, you can just try and go in at different times of the day, just when it's a little bit cooler. It doesn't make a massive difference, I'm not gonna lie. It was still really, really hot, but like peak sun was obviously more intense. With the Disney parks, the car parks were kind of like one story just outside. So on occasion you would, well, actually 9 times out of 10, you would end up parking really far away from the park entrance. So they would be running like, I don't really know what you call it, like a tram, from the car park to kind of nearer the entrance of the parks, or like say to Magic Kingdom. You would then, from there, you would then get the monorail or the ferry boat thing into Magic Kingdom. But they would be the kind of train tram type things. Again, I think I've got a video of us on it, so I'll show you before getting to that, because if you end up parking far away, it's quite a big walk. What I would say with that is just be aware that you have to take your baby out and fold the pram up to get onto these. So again, it helped because we had loads of us, so we were like unloading the pram, because obviously everything's in the bottom of the pram. You've got your water bottles, your fans, like other people's stuff, your rain mats, everything is in the bottom of your pushchair. So you have to unload all of that to fold it up and get on. So again, if there's less of you and you haven't got as many hands, a baby carrier might be really, really helpful at this point. We did use it a couple of times. The only thing with that is it's so hot. It's like another layer of you and your baby, but it needs must. That might work better for you. So we did have the baby carrier with us as well. But yeah, just be aware that you have to do that. So getting a pram that folds up quite well is probably a must. We took our normal Mums and Papas Acaro. We've absolutely loved it. It was great. It was heavy and it doesn't fold up teeny tiny, but because I had Tom and there was so many of us, it was fine. I wouldn't have been able to do it myself, but it worked well for us as a big group. It is quite heavy though, so just want to bear in mind what pram you want to take, but I will come on to that in a little while. But for like Universal and Islands of Adventure, you actually park in like a multi-story, so there isn't as big of a walk, and then you do City Walk, which you just walk that. How many times can I say walk? But it is just the Disney parks. It was definitely at Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, I think Epcot, but we parked a little bit closer there, so I don't think we had to use it. And the same with Hollywood Studios. But yeah, that's just something to bear in mind. Whereas like on the ferry boat and the monorail, you can just push the push on and keep it up. Also, if you've got babies and young children, you can use a thing called Parent Swap. It's probably, if you're doing Disney and you've done the parks and things, you'll already know about this. But obviously I'd never been before. So yeah, Parent Swap is basically, if there's rides that your children can't do, they will let, you know, some of the group will go on, one person will stay behind looking after the baby, and depending where you are, depending who you get, that person who waited will go back on with one extra person, so one person will get to ride twice. More so at Universal, they didn't mind how many people came back on, so a lot of us were doing the ride twice because they would just allow 5-6 people back on again. Disney weren't so relaxed about that. They were like, no, it's one person. So just ask. It's worth an ask, because the first time at Universal we didn't know and we just automatically just put one person back on, but we learned throughout the trip that they would allow multiple people back on. At Universal, it was really lovely because you would go through like the queue with your baby, and then you would get to where everybody else was getting on the ride, and they have these family rooms. So they were all like air-conned. There was normally like a TV on in there. So like during the Harry Potter rides, on the TV, Harry Potter films on the TV. And there's like a changing table. So it would just give a little bit of respite, and they were quite a nice area to wait with your child. But obviously you would have to take your baby through the queue. Most of them wouldn't allow pushchairs through the queues, so you'd have to put them in a stroller park first. So a couple of times it was a little bit annoying because Nova was asleep and we were like, oh, we're gonna have to get her out to put her in the queue. But another tip I would say is just ask, because some of them will let you go through the queue with the pram, and you could then just wait in the family area, or just sneak off at the end. They always have exits and things towards the start of the ride. So yeah, again, just ask. If your baby is asleep and you don't want to have to wake them up to put your pram in the stroller park, then go all the way through the queue. It's worth an ask. They might let it through, they might not, it depends. Yeah, that's how Universal worked with the family rooms. But at Disney, you would just go up with all of you. They would scan your card and they would have one person wait behind. Sometimes they'd allow like 2 people to wait behind, so sometimes me and Tom would wait with Nova, everybody else would ride. When they come off, they would then take Nova, so we'd just go and find somewhere to sit, either in the shade, or we'd find like a little aircon shop or a restaurant or something. And then when they came back, it was then our turn to go on, and we would go on and ride, and we'd just go through the lightning lane queue to get on. So that's just how the two kind of different areas worked in that sense. Universal was really good because you got the air-conned family rooms to kind of sit in, which I liked, and they would let more people ride. So Parent Swap, I feel, was actually better in Universal and Islands Adventure, but I guess there's probably more rides that children can't do there. I don't know. There's pros and cons, I think, to each park. But that was definitely a pro for Universal. The thing that let us down a little bit with Universal is it's not as up to date. You can't do as much on the app. So say if you've got like Genie Plus and you're paying to go through like the lightning lanes and things, we actually used lightning lanes and booking on rides a lot, because we had actually a member of our family had a DAS pass, which is a disability pass. So we would actually not have to queue, so we would go up to the rides and book on for a certain time, and we could then return and go through the lightning lane. The good thing that I was saying about Disney is that you can use the app and you can book on the app the rides, whereas at Universal you'd have to walk all the way up to the ride and do it in person and then return back at your ride time. Whereas Disney, you could just do it all on the app. You could stand at the entrance, book onto a ride all the way at the other side of the park, and then you could go and get lunch or do whatever, whereas Universal, it was a little bit more walking. So yeah, like I said, pros and cons to each park. Again, that's kind of a tip that doesn't completely apply just to families. Obviously, if you've got the DAS pass or you've got Genie Plus, that's kind of how it works. Next thing I would say is take refillable bottles. So we took these type ones, the aluminium ones, and these are amazing because they obviously keep your drinks cold. You do drink them, you tend to drink them quite quickly because you're so hot and you need to be hydrated. But I definitely like these because they kept it cool. I wouldn't want to fill this with water and then come back to it half an hour later and it'd be warm and disgusting. So at the Disney parks, they had loads of like fountains to refill at Universal. Like I mentioned in one of my vlogs, we did buy one of the refillable ones that you can then refill with whatever you want. But we did still take these because you could put water in there. And then if like anybody in your group, but like if you have children or whatever that don't particularly like water, or they want to have squash, we took some of these little squash things. This wasn't for Nova, this was for me because I'm not the biggest fan of water, and I knew I would drink more if I had squash, so I took these with us, and then I could just pop that into the bottled like from the fountain water in here, and then I would have squash rather than water. So you don't have to be paying for water or drinks every time you go in, because it is expensive at all of them. They're all expensive. Food, drink, the fans, the cooling towels, all of it is ridiculously priced because they know you need it. So taking your own water bottle to refill is definitely a massive help. I'm trying to think of other park tips for children. All I would say is just take a baby carrier as well. So now I'll kind of go into, like, again, a few more bits that really helped us with Nova. We, as I mentioned, we took our mamas and papas just normal pushchair. A, we took it because I didn't want to have to fork out money to buy another one. B, I know she's comfortable in that. It is a really comfy pram. She sleeps well in it. The basket space under it was really, really handy. I could recline it, it had a really big hood on it. And yeah, I would just say whatever you take, just make sure it's comfy for your child. If you're wanting them to like be in it a lot and sleep, because obviously they're in there a lot. They are, because you're queuing a lot, you're walking around a lot. It needs to be somewhere that they feel comfortable and safe. So that's why we took ours, and I'm so glad we did. I'm not saying that any other pram's not comfy. Like, you can probably get ones that fold up a lot better and a lot lighter that are still just as comfy, but for us, we just took that and it worked really, really well. All I would say is make sure your baby is comfortable to sleep in it. And then just think about how heavy it is and how easy it folds up. You do have to fold them up quite a few times. Obviously getting on off planes, on and off trains, like in like at Universal, if you're getting like Hogwarts Express, you had to take your baby out of it, but you didn't have to necessarily fold it up. But obviously just think about, like, weigh up like the pros and cons, and you know what works for you. And depending, like, we had our own car, so we had loads of space, we could just fold up and put it in. But if you're kind of getting taxis or buses all the time, you might want something slightly different, something slightly lighter weight, or you know, whatever. But for us, it worked really well, and she slept amazing. She would have no trouble having her naps in there. But I also think the best thing we took with us for that was our snooze shade. We do have a parasol, but I find parasols really hard to kind of angle for the sun and get them to work properly. For some reason, they're just really annoying. But the snooze shade was great, and it just aided her sleep so well. She just knew as soon as that snooze shade was on, she was going to sleep, and that was that. It blocked out the sun, it protected her from UV. I was paranoid because it's black and you're worried about like them getting really hot and the sun and everything, but just obviously keep an eye on them. There's the little zip bit so you can like see into it, and we just had the fan on in there as well, so we had like the air circulating in there, and actually it kind of created cool air because she was shaded from the sun, so that was really helpful. And for us as well, with going back to our pushchair, before the holiday we had her facing us, but as obviously she's a little bit older now, she's quite nosy, wanting to know what was going on. Sometimes she wouldn't want to go back in the pushchair because, you know, she's spending a lot of time in there. We then made it world facing. So again, that was another pro to taking that pushchair, was because we could have the option of having her facing us or facing out. So that also was something really good, and again, something to consider. Depending on the age of your baby, etc. And then the only other thing that I'm going to kind of touch on is how we were making up like her bottles, and what kind of water and food and things she was drinking over there. Again, this could apply for anywhere in the world really. But for making up her bottles, like water that we were giving her, we were buying nursery water because we weren't comfortable with giving her the tap water there. And obviously you have to be really careful giving babies bottled water, something to do with the sodium content. Again, just do like your own research on that, and what bottled water has what amount of sodium and sulfate and things in that, and what your baby can and can't have. And I know that the guidelines are different depending on where you live, but we were getting nursery water, which was like a distilled cleaned water that was safe for her to drink. I will say she was poorly over there. I don't know if it was just a viral thing. Her tummy was a little bit unsettled, whether it's to do with the water or the food. I mean, the heat, all of it. There was obviously time difference as well, so there was a lot for her to handle. So it's not really surprising that she had a bit of a dippy tummy and was unwell. but I feel like the nursery water was the most sensible and it's what I was most comfortable giving her. But again, just do your own research. I'm sure a lot of countries have like the similar kind of thing, nursery kind of water for babies. Obviously I don't know because I haven't taken her anywhere else, but that's just what I knew from going to America. So that's what she had to make her bottles and stuff, and we'd just do it with the kettle, you know, the normal way. So for the parks and things, I would take some ready-made formula, but I didn't want her having too much ready-made because it has a laxative effect, and because her tummy was already a little bit unsettled, I didn't want her having too many. So I then also take a flask of boiled water to make, and like the powdered formula, and I would make up a bottle there, and then I would just go to a restaurant. I would take my Tommy Tippy flask. You guys, if you've watched my channel, you've seen it millions of times because I'm always talking about it. I would then just take the part of it that you can fill with cold water, and I just ask someone to do that with some ice, and then you can just put the bottle in there and it would cool it down really, really quickly. So that's just how I did it round the parks. Just be aware though, take your formula with you, because obviously it doesn't really matter where you're going, they wouldn't have the same brand of formula, so I wouldn't want her to change that, as well as changing the water and the food and everything. Definitely take your own formula and just overpack, because she drank a lot more milk there than she does at home because it was just so hot. And probably with her tummy feeling a bit weird, she was a little bit off her food. She wasn't eating anywhere near as much solids as she was at home, so she was just drinking more milk. I did come back with like a whole tub of formula and like 6 or 7 ready-mades, but I was, you know, I would much rather come home with it than run out there, because I don't know what I would have done. I really did overpack, but I would say definitely overpack your formula. If you're formula feeding your baby, and if they're at that age, then definitely do that. Obviously if they're on cow's milk or something, then that's a little bit different, you can get that there. Formula, definitely pack and overpack. We took her a lot of her like jarred food as well, because I'm pretty sure, you know, you can probably, you could buy it out there, but I just wanted her to have, I didn't want her to be like stressing out going to the supermarket and buying it all there. I just knew that we already had it and it was there ready to go, and I knew what she liked, her tummy was more used to. I did buy a few little snacks out there because we were starting to run low on more of like the finger food, because that's what she was eating more of. Just kind of, if you're wanting to take your own food and milk, just make sure, you know, you're better off having enough, bringing some home than running out, I would say. But again, it just depends on your luggage allowance. We were again really lucky because we had so many of us, so we kind of shared all the stuff. That's just what we did and worked for us. I think that is kind of all of the tips I can think of currently. I might be back in like 10 minutes because I thought of something else. That's kind of what I've taken away from our holiday to Florida. Like I said, take what you can from it and take it with a pinch of salt, because it's just what has worked for us and her. Your situation might be completely different, your baby might be different, and if anybody else has any tips that they have for flying or holidays with babies and young children, then please let me know and leave it in the comments. That is it, and I'm sure I'll be back on my channel with some more Florida content for you very, very soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye. You're so close up. I'm so sorry if I close up the truth is, I just wanna take